Welcome back to the Wise Divine Women podcast, where we help you go from fed up to faith fueled, helping you to become the wise divine women that you've been called to be. Today, I have Dr. Liz DuBois Erskine, and she has another podcast called Psyched, but more so talking about the health of your mental health, the high performance addiction, all these things that and the striving of life as we are, becoming women of the world, kind of a curse sometimes. I'd be much happier just growing a garden, feeding chickens, right? And traveling across the world on a boat. Welcome to the show, Dr. Liz.
Thank you. Thank you. My nightmare is having chickens. All of our neighbors have chickens, and it's very, we live right in town. We live in a small town, but we live right in town, and hearing the roosters and the chickens all day long, every day, and just the upkeep and care, I'm like, absolutely not. Under no circumstances do I want chickens.
It's the retiring to the farm misbelief of things. I don't want to say disbelief or this false reality of, because it's a lot of work. Chickens are a lot of work.
Anything alive is a lot of work.
Exactly. So we had sort of alluded on, you had a 20-year recovering high performance entrepreneur recovery, right? And
Kind of. I've been in recovery for drugs and alcohol for 20 plus years. So
Okay.
I have not had continuous sobriety in that time, but I went to my first 12-step recovery program meeting. Gosh, I was like 19. I think I was 19 and I'm 42. So it's been a while.
Goodness, it's been a long time, and it is a roller coaster, that's for sure. And so what is it that you do? I know you have a podcast called Psyched. Tell me about yourself. What is the journey that you're on, and what are you so passionate about?
It's a big question. So I'm an executive coach. I have a PhD in conflict analysis and resolution with a focus on trauma and organizational development. There's a lot of overlap there. I was just speaking with a new client who her trauma is really driving the bus on a big decision that she's got to make in her business. She's got some really cool opportunities and she's got to pick one over the other. And her trauma is screaming at her to disregard some of the different factors that she really needs to consider. And that is a universal story for every woman leader I've ever met. We're all carrying so many different experiences with us. A lot of us have really dark things that have been done to us or that have happened in our lives. And as leaders, what happens is we want to grow and scale an organization or perhaps, sell a book, lead a speaking career to a new place. We have this desire to create and drive, which I think is really innate to women, right? We create life. And at the same time, we have these parts of ourselves that have gone through experiences that say, no, stay small. It's much safer to just stay where you're at. Don't get too big for your britches, right? And these kind of the disconnect between these feelings. I want more and I want to bring more to life and I can't have more because it's not safe. That intersection is really where I focus with my clients, is helping to
Mm-hmm.
make that safe space, to make that space safe to explore and
Right.
to investigate and to question and to say, is this stuff that I want in my life? Is this not stuff that I want in my life? How do I move with intentionality versus reactivity?
I would also think that women are having a difficult time in the aspect of, so we've transitioned, we're sort of post-career, post-family care, and we now have found our passion. And that doesn't meet the same drive as our partners who have worked, all their lives, and now they're retired. So it's it's not as complex as, $1 million decisions, but I think it's the same disbeliefs or the same trauma that may rise for women at any age and at any stage that we have to work through and face the challenges that are before us, right?
Yeah, I think that the path, right? The older I get, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, this really is a path. This really is a journey. It's not just like you wake up and you do the things and then you go to bed and the next day you get up and you do it all over again. When I think about the kind of grand trajectory of my life now, as someone who's in perimenopause, who's married to someone who's retired, I have so much more time and space in my heart to really contemplate what is it that I want to be doing with my life, and then since I have clarity on that question, how do I then enact it? And I think that's very different than I was in my early 20s, even my early 30s, when it was kind of like achieve, 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 achieve.
Right, right. It is different, right? I mean, there is a bit of freedom to things, or there was freedom then. Freedom is completely different 30 years later. But now we have the time. Now we have the opportunities, and then we have all these old voices that keep always coming back up into the headspace when we're trying to become this new entrepreneur or this new sage or this new age of wisdom that we have heart and time to do now. So I think that's amazing. And it is difficult for women, especially with younger women as being high achievers, and not so much high achievers. A lot of women have beautiful ideas and they've created great businesses and they have the ability to sell. And it is different from men and women in these situations, do you find?
Yeah, absolutely. I think men experience imposter syndrome too, right? I think that there's perception among women that men don't struggle with their confidence, or I always say, "Oh, have the confidence of a middle-aged white man." Imposter syndrome shows up really, really differently for men. Anxiety shows up differently for men. So I think as we're kind of navigating our own paths, the question has to be what's authentic and real for us, and knowing that that might not look the same as the people around us.
So what kind of questions are we asking ourselves if we're ready to make some sort of change or transition and we're finding difficulty in doing that, or, jumping in with both 2 feet? What can be the resistance that we're expecting, or that how do we overcome that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Big question. So I think first and foremost, like the thing to take note of, if you are a creative person, a generative person where ideas come really quickly and easily, I call it being ideaphoric, right? And you want to move from having an idea into effectuating change. I think the only way to go is 2 feet full in and cannonball and go after it. And the thing that makes it difficult for us to do that is we have built up all of these different stories around who we're allowed to be and what we're allowed to have and what is safe to pursue. And the more that we push ourselves to achieve something without attending to those parts of ourselves that are like, oh, I don't know all about this, the more we're going to get clogged up, right? We're not going to be able to move as quickly as we want. And with, as many resources internally, just a sense of joy and conviction, those things can get really siphoned away when you're also struggling with, do I deserve to have this? Am I worthy of this? Am I capable of this? Those questions really tend to serve as impediments. And what people come to believe is they serve as reasons, right? Like, I'm not ready for this. I can't have this. My sister didn't have this. My mom didn't have this. Who do
Right.
I think I am? These kind of narratives that we perseverate on that make it very difficult for us to just move forward with clarity.
Yeah, it can be a difficult time, and I love that 2 feet in, just swim kind of idea, because it's jumping in, it's going for it, and then waiting and treading through the things that might be missed. But I think if we sit back and wait for things to be perfect, it'll never happen. Right? So the email's not set up properly, or the payment program is a little off, or I don't know if I have all the right marketing materials set in place, and I don't have this and I don't have that. But again, no matter what it is, it's like, just start. Just start the momentum and correct as you go, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Amazing. So, what is it that you find to be the most difficult part for women trying to navigate themselves in an AI society when it comes to business, and it comes to even with confidence and mental health?
I can't speak to the AI side of things, because I don't know. That's not really an area that I practice in. I've gotten this question twice on other podcasts, and I'm kind of like,
You don't
there's a
see it.
part.
Well, that's fine. You just don't see it as being a challenge that women are having,
No,
because
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it's not like a focus of my work, right? Like, I'm sure that some of the people that I work with have terribly ingrown toenails, but I am not a podiatrist, and so I don't work on that part of their pain. So, I'm sure they struggle with all sorts of things that I
right.
don't work on. I think one of the things that a huge critique that I have of the coaching industry, which is an unregulated
Yeah.
industry, is that people really like just decide that they're qualified to do anything. Or just as annoyingly, they go online and they get these online coaching certifications from some other person who's just trying to make money selling an online coaching certification. And so we've got this kind of iterative like network of folks saying, oh, I know how to do all of these things because somebody else taught me how to do all these things. And that person made a bunch of shit up. And, it's just like this conglomerate of people that don't really have the skill set to do what they're saying they can
Mhm.
do. And so when I get a question like, well, how is this impacting X, Y, or Z? I'm like, I don't know. I don't practice in that area. And so if you're a coach listening to this and you find yourself being asked things that you're really faking it till you're making it. That's an invitation from the universe to take a step back and say, what is my real calling here, and how do I work directly on that, as opposed to how do I try to make sure I have all the answers all the time.
Mm-hmm. So if someone is moving into that sort of that coaching field, that's where their passion is going. And are you finding it that you're wanting them to be more what is passionate on their heart or what the market says and drives?
I have no interest in what the market says and drives. I have very little interest in that. I see people making money doing things they love, and I see people making very little money chasing trends of what the market says, right? Again, like, I've gotten this
Yeah.
AI question 3 times, and I don't
Yeah.
think that that's like a coincidence, right? I think that a lot of people are like, "Oh, AI is the thing now. How are we gonna talk about AI?" And I love AI. AI corrects all of my spelling, all of my grammar, all of my syntax. I do not
Yeah.
send an email that's complicated unless ChatGPT or Claude has had a whack at it. And I asked it, I have a medication that was making me vomit earlier today, and I went on Claude because I couldn't get a hold of my doctor. He wasn't picking up, and I was like, Claude, this is what's happening, right? And so, like, AI plays a role in my day to day life, but in terms of driving business decisions, my work is really focused on how do leaders become the most effective, efficient, powerful, potent, impactful leaders that they have the capacity to be, right? And for me, that can't be a question that you look at a marketplace and go, well, what does the market say? I think it's a question that you look within inside of yourself and you say, well, what is my higher power calling me towards? What is my true
Right.
passion here? And then how do I monetize it?
Mm-hmm. It's funny. It's just in the sort of health sphere, the everyone sort of switched to the menopause aspect, and it's just like, was that your focus in the first place? I'm not sure, but I think a lot of the times women are not understanding what their true passion is, what their true heart's desires is, and having someone like yourself to sort of ream that out and help them flush. Because it's hard for us to decide what we wanna be well, it's not hard what we wanna decide to be passionate about, but women can have scattered thoughts and have certain hobbies here or there. So, if I'm to become a great speaker in front of women, right, there are certain things that you question and create and do, correct?
I mean, can you ask that a little bit differently?
Yes. So, if someone's coming to you looking for coaching, are
Mm.
you flushing out their passion and or their skill sets and you're creating that for them, right?
I mean, that's not really the role that I play often. So usually what happens is someone comes to me and she's already running the race, right? I don't start with people really who are kind of at the like they're still in the bleachers, like tying their sneakers. Like I work with people who are, already mid race, who are running a good strong race and they want to go further faster, or they're getting tripped up and they're not quite sure why, right? And so when somebody comes to me, it's less about what is your passion and your purpose. Most of my people are really, really clear what they're passionate about, and they have a very clear idea of what their purpose is. So my work is to figure out, well, what are the entrenched beliefs? What are the narratives? What are the stories that you're telling yourself that are making it difficult for you to get where you want to go? And what are the different things that you're telling yourself you have to do, quote unquote, I have to do this,
Right.
that are actually taking you away from this stated desire and purpose that you have?
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, no, that's a good clarification because if you're someone who is in that sort of business world and you've come to a stall, you've hit a
Mhm.
wall, this is who you reach out to. So that's perfect. And there are lots of other coaches to help those beginner people as well, in
Mhm.
as a life coach and as a business coach as well. So I wanted to sort of step in and ask you, During COVID, you
Mhm.
decided to just abandon and buy a boat. Can you
I
talk a
I
bit about
I
that?
didn't
Because we
abandon ship. I abandoned land and I bought a boat. Yeah, so I had a dream for at that point, I'd had a dream for about 11 years of living on a boat, which I later came to find out is a thing that part of my family does. There's a branch of my family that people live aboard, and this just must be, like, in my DNA. We must have, descended from sailors or something, because
Mhm.
there's a branch of my family where people live on boats. But I didn't like, but for the grace of Facebook, right? Second cousins coming out of the woodwork and going, "Oh, did you know, right? Grandpa did this." And, I currently have cousins who are doing the Great Loop. So, Captain Jack and Miguel, if you're listening to this, I love you very much. And they give the best marriage advice. So they're great. Yeah, so I'd had a dream. I wanted to live on a boat, and the pandemic happened, and it just seemed like a really good time to do nothing that was geographically attached. My son was no longer in kindergarten. He was in virtual school, which for a kid with dyslexia was extremely, um, yeah, I mean, it was a form of abuse, man. Like, it was a form of abuse
Yep.
to sit a kid in front of a computer and tell him to read when he
Can't.
cannot read. And
Yeah.
my child would turn around in the dining area of our boat, and he would smash his head against the wall, and he would say, "I'm so stupid," right? And I was being told that this was just what I was supposed to be doing as a parent. And I have extremely limited patience for being told to do something that I know is stupid, especially if it's in the realm of my parenting. Everybody can, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss or not, right? But
Go
everybody can.
ahead, it's fine,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just like, if you want to come tell me how to parent my child, you can go fuck yourself. And to be told by the government that I had to be doing that a certain way was really disconcerting. And so I had this little squishy kid. We lived in an apartment in downtown DC, and he was cooped up, and I was cooped up, and the world was cooped up, and I just felt like this might be the moment to do it. And so I called my co-parents and my dad's my son's dad and his stepmom, both of whom were really supportive, and they just said, "This has been a dream for a long time. Go." And so at that point there was really there was nobody else that I had to get to bless this idea.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for a boat to rent for the summer to kind of test it out, and everybody said, "Oh, you can't rent a boat. That nobody's gonna let you rent a live aboard boat." And I was like, "Thank you for sharing." I'm just, like, not super interested in what naysayers have to say.
Yeah.
And so I found this really cool boat, and we rented it for the summer, and it was, like, very clear within about 2 weeks, maybe shorter than that. I think I asked my kid, like, 3 days in. I was like, "Do you like this?" He goes, "We should do this forever." And so we had our dogs. We had Lucky and Clover and my kid, and we just had a ball. And I decided I needed to leave the law firm that I was coaching at. They needed me back in person, and I had a child. And it didn't really, I don't know if I can't coach and have a kindergarten boy in the same room. It just isn't gonna work very
Doesn't
well.
work. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, no, kindergarten boys aren't known for their patience and, like, confidentiality. So I quit my law firm, and I just decided, like, I needed to figure out how to make it work. I had about 4 months of savings if I didn't make any money in my business. And so I said, I can hope for the best in 4 months, or hear me out, I could buy an older yacht in cash, and we could live on it. And, like, then if the company didn't work out, like, we can just eat ramen and anchor out, and it'll be fine. And I made 3 times my take home salary my first month as a coach. So I was kind of like, "Oh, okay, well, this is working fine." And I bought an older yacht, and we lived on it, and it was amazing. And we went from being people that lived in DC to being people that live at the beach. And I still live at the beach, even though the boat is no more. I recently got married to the love of my life, and we live here on the eastern shore of Maryland, very close to the beach. We were just at the dock bar that's, like, walking, I don't know, 40 feet from where my boat used to be docked. And so I got to go, I called it my auxiliary kitchen because we ate there most of the time. We didn't really cook on board. And so we went to this dive bar just for, like, fun and live music on Friday. And I was like, "Oh man, I used to eat, like, every meal here."
Well, and it's so character building. Like it would, like I had said, we took our kids from the city and moved them to the farm. Best time of their life, right? Did we make a lot of money? No, but we worked. Husband worked with my dad, and the kids had an amazing time. So it's absolutely these are memory making opportunities
Mhm.
for your son, right?
100%.
And then, living at the cottage for the summer. Again, who gets to go fishing every day and who gets to go swimming every day?
Yeah.
And you get to see the sunsets and sunrise. And it's such a great culture for your son to be able to thrive in such a beautiful environment, right? And that's the beautiful thing about, even if you ended up homeschooling him, again, so much better for someone who does have dyslexia. And for my own children who now tell me that they have dyslexia and ADHD as adult children, I'm like, unfortunately, when, 15, 20 years ago, when they were that age, that wasn't around. Just wasn't a thing that we did. Now we advocate, right? So
Yeah, I was lucky. I had a parent that advocated for me, and I was diagnosed dyslexic in 2nd grade, and I know that that made a big
big
difference in my
difference.
life.
Hmm.
Yeah, but for my son, what I did, he still had to go to school, quote unquote, because I don't parent on my own. I've got co-parents, right? And that was the decision. He was going to still go to school, but I hired a student, an education major from the University of Maryland, and I bought a homeschool curriculum. And I handed her the curriculum, and I said, "I'm going to work over in that room, and you are going to teach him school in this room." And so he had his like online virtual school, but then he had Miss Crystal, and so they would do a bunch of worksheets and stuff, and then they would go to the beach and hang out, and they'd do a bunch of worksheets, and then they'd go to the arcade and hang out. And so I told my son during that time period, I said, all these other kids are going to have these experiences of being locked up for, 2 years, and you're gonna have these experiences of, like, poking crabs with sticks and making friends and eating pizza on the bow of your boat, right, with, like, a couple of friends from the dock. And, he was so young, right? He was in 2nd grade when I sold the boat,
Hmm.
and I hope that he'll retain some of those memories, right? But bigger than that, my real hope is that he retains some of the mindset of, when life hands you a pandemic, go buy a yacht, because that's gonna serve him very well.
Yeah, that whole flexibility and the ability to just bend and create and not look at it as being this terrible, terrible time, right? Same like we just go to camp, just go hide out, go play on the island and go fishing every day or go boating and watch sunsets. Exactly, right? It's making the most of things. And it was a terrible time for people regardless because of the city restrictions and things. Hopefully it'll never happen again. Terrible. I think you'd have much more resistance now
Yeah,
in
100%.
yeah,
My son said something about some disease, whatever. I don't follow the news super closely, and he said something about some disease was coming, and I said, "You will never get the majority of the United States to agree to do that ever again." I cannot think of a thing that would make the majority of us go, "Yeah, that was a great idea to socially isolate for 2 years. There were no consequences whatsoever, and the economy's doing great."
yes. It's difficult. It was hard for people's mindset, right?
Yeah, it's
To
super
do that.
depressing.
Mm.
We're not
Mhm.
meant to live in isolation.
No, it is certainly a community effort, and it's a community effort for seniors to have that sort of rally, that connection, the ability to laugh and play games or play cards or do those things and cook with others and share meals. So it's all very important for the vitality of people's existence, and we don't do enough of that, right? That's why it's so important for people to have church groups or to have a community group that they or good group of friends so that everyone can share in that communion and share thoughts and laugh and have so much greatness with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you writing a book about your whole experience? Is that down the pipeline?
I started a book called I'm on a Boat, I'm on a Boat, which is an SNL parody song. If you haven't heard I'm on a Boat, go listen to I'm on a Boat. You've been missing out. So I started writing a book called I'm on a Boat about the experiences, and what that morphed into was writing a larger novel. It's called Bad Mom. I don't know when it's going to come out because I'm writing a work related book right now. So Bad Mom is a novel that's based off the experiences that I had living on a boat, doing all those things, but we're living in a Winnebago instead of a boat. We have this little cabiny Winnebago, and then the main character Landon, who's very loosely based off my experiences, relapses in recovery and has to go through the whole process of reconciling with her child and her past and all of that different stuff.
Mhm.
So that in stores in some point in the future.
So you're writing a workbook. Is that a course book that you're
No,
creating?
a book related to leadership development. So it's called She Did What? Authentic Leadership That Sets You Free. And it's focused on like vignettes. So each chapter, it has a core principle related to growth and development of leadership. And each chapter starts with a vignette of different clients that I've had. So most of them are an amalgamation of a couple of different clients, not just like one person's straightforward experience. So there's a vignette that starts each chapter that illustrates the broader concept of leadership development that I then talk about in the chapter. And it should be out Christmas of this year. And I'm very excited about it.
I bet that is it is quite hard, quite an accomplishment to keep everything in line, right? And not have all these, oh, I forgot this point and I forgot this point. It's like, okay, no, you have to stay to the line and get things the chapters finished. You can always add chapters to the end. Well, it's very exciting because leadership is very important. I find that my daughter is in a sort of leadership role as well. And she's always trying to, balance the workplace environment in, not only just making sure her goals are met, but trying to bring the team into that vision as well. So it's complex. And there's different types of businesses and there's different types of relationships out there in the world. And that book will probably help quite a few different women, no matter what field or career that they're in.
I hope so. It should be fun. I'm enjoying the process of writing it, especially now that it's warm and I can sit out on my back patio.
Right? Yes. It's very, very nice. We were down in Maryland in March, so we had a nice little and kind of driving through everything and then down to Georgia and to Florida. So it's just nice to get away. We still had lots of snow here in Canada during that time. So I get getting away and getting out and sitting in the sun and feeling creative again. Right.
Mm. Yep. That is what I live for.
Awesome. So what can people find on your podcast site?
Okay, so on Psyched, I host it with Dr. Talisha Watts, who is also in leadership development. She's a business consultant, so different than what I do, but very much in the same neighborhood. So Psyched is an intersection of leadership and mental health. So it's raw, real discussions of mental health issues. So it's not watered down in kind of work-life balance or mindfulness. We're talking explicitly about different aspects of mental health and mental health disorders that make it complicated and challenging and adventurous for people to pursue leadership and talk a little bit about the stigma associated with outing yourself as someone with a mental disorder or a mental health disorder, however you want to say it.
Hmm.
I personally have bipolar I. I talk about my mental health as a mental health illness.
Hmm.
Um, People like to say condition. Other people do lots of other things. There's lots of ways to conceptualize these issues, which is why we made a podcast about it so we could talk all about it.
Exactly. I think it's important, right? So that people have this opportunity to hear and listen to the conditions that they, have or the different situations that they're in and or so that they feel a little more unlabeled, right? Rather than it should feel normal and you should be able to thrive and excel. And I'm sure that you speak explicitly about a variety of different things because you just have that personality that just is like, okay, throwing it down. We're talking about it. This is it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about all the things.
Let's talk about all the things. That's amazing. I think that's good. So we're going to make sure we put that in the show notes because I think it's important for people of all ages, right? Because the generations, well, you're younger than I am anyways, but that 20 to 40 have been, kind of cooped or labeled with many different things or even in their teens and they do well and they thrive well and they are great business people but they don't want to talk openly about their issues, right? They don't want to be labeled or they don't want to be discriminated against. And I am sure that the Psyched podcast allows people to have a platform of knowledge and acceptance and how to drive or mitigate through the business world, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It's certainly an interesting podcast to co-host. I think that stigma is something that I personally still really fear. I fear people knowing the full, breadth of my
Mhm.
personal health journey with mental wellness. So it's something that's still very much present in a lot of people's lives as an impediment.
Yeah,
And
they shouldn't be.
I mean, I think that it's good to be wary of the fact that if you have a mental health condition, you need to take care of yourself very well. I'm having a significant challenge with the medication that I take, a significant challenge. And it's, weighing on me heavily that I've got to do something here and I can't get a hold of my doctor and da 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 da. And that's not an insignificant thing that I can just like shift my mindset about. And I think that there's a real danger in a lot of conversations that happen right now around just shifting your mindset and, thinking positively and manifesting a different outcome. And when you've got a serious health condition, right? I have a health condition just the same as someone that would need to have their kidneys on dialysis every day. I have a life-threatening health condition. 20% of the people with this illness kill themselves. It's more than breast cancer and testicular cancer combined, and being able to speak openly about that still feels very dangerous because,
Mm.
what are people's responses going to be? Is that going to limit my credibility? Is it going to undermine my legitimacy? And I think that those are conversations that need to be had.
I think so. Absolutely. Yeah. I know my own children, we talk about it about their friends or even about themselves. We try and keep these conversations open. And it is important to not stigmatize it. It's important to have open conversations. It is really important to see your doctor, right? Don't just skip it. Don't think you don't need to take medications, because medications can be very important if you are dealing with a serious health condition. And then understanding, from even from our perspective, making sure that, you exercise or you get sunshine or you're eating the proper food and you're sleeping well. Those are all very important things as well. But none of that works if you're not taking medications, right? So
Yeah. I want to say on that note, if you're listening to this and your eyes are just kind of bugging out of your head and you're like, I don't need medication. Medication is like part of the psychopharmaceutical industrial complex. Like, you are right.
it
Like,
is.
there's so many problems with how we medicate people and how quickly we medicate people and if we medicate people and all of that. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, I've really sorted this out for myself, and screw you for saying that, you have to take medicine. You absolutely don't. I choose to take medicine. My life has been drastically improved with the benefits of modern medicine, and I'm very, very grateful for that. When I was younger and had more time and less rigidity around my routine with this, I would volunteer often for different clinical trials because I feel a tremendous debt of gratitude to the people before me who helped develop drugs like lithium, which saved my life. And so if you're hearing this and you're like, screw you, medication, yeah, rock on with your bad self. Take care of yourself as best you know how,
Yes.
and be open-minded to whatever treatments that you need to pursue, whether that's medication or, all sorts of different technology that's coming into vogue right now. Go for it.
True. Thank you so much for that correction. It's just that, yeah, as long as everyone's aware and taking care and
Yeah,
researching and doing the right thing for themselves.
that's
Yeah.
right. Do the right thing for yourself.
Do the
Yeah.
right thing for yourself. Yeah. Your body. Yeah, exactly. So where can people find you as a coach?
Mhm. So the fastest way to find me is at my website, coachdrliz.com, just coachdrliz.com. And there's link to all my socials there. I'm most
Yeah.
active on Facebook.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the book will be coming out on Amazon. So like, get into her newsletters and be part of her socials and get on the podcast. So we'll have the podcast in there as well, because I'm actually very excited about that. I wanted to get in. I listen to a lot of podcasts as I travel. Like tonight, I have a 7-hour drive ahead of me, so I'll be listening to the podcast. Yeah, enough about hormones. So I'll listen to something else. The I always finish with, what is a word of wisdom that you've held true to that has given you strength during this time?
It's so interesting you asked that. I was just thinking about this the other night as I was falling asleep. So in seventh grade, this teacher said he'd rather regret something he did than something he didn't, meaning he would rather lie awake at night being like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this thing versus, oh my God, I can't believe I missed this opportunity. And he said that, I don't remember this man's name. I vaguely recall what he looks like, but I remember where I was. I remember the classroom I was in. I remember it was like a career day or so. It was like some sort of alternate education enrichment sort of day. And he said that, and that has stuck with me. I'm 42 years old. I was in seventh grade then. And like, I can still put myself right back in that classroom and remember hearing this guy basically be like, balls to the wall, motherfucker. Like, and if it doesn't work out, you'll figure it out. And
good.
I have lived by actually, here's this is my llama that holds all of my pen.
Yes.
Take
Take
no
no
prisoners
prisoners.
and give no fucks, right? I'm just like, go for it and don't look back and move forward in your life with conviction and fearlessness and grit. And if it doesn't work out, you'll figure it out along the way, which has been my experience.
I love it. I love it. That was exactly that jump in 2 feet, go, right?
Yeah.
You can
I'm
always apologize. Like, you can always figure it out after.
That's right. You can always
Yeah.
say sorry.
You can always say sorry. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Liz. This has been a really exciting conversation. I just love it because it's not a normal conversation. And we got to laugh and talk about so much here. And
Yeah.
I am excited to see what future adventures that you will have because it's limitless, right? I hope everyone has a great adventure this summer. Like just throw caution to the wind, have fun, do something that's outrageous,
That's
right?
right. Go buy a yacht, sell everything you own
Go
and
sell
buy.
everything, go buy a Winnebago and travel across North America.
If you're listening to this and you're interested in coaching with me, I am offering $500 off of my coaching packages to anyone who mentions this podcast that they saw me
Awesome.
featured on. So go on down to coachdrliz.com, make an appointment with me, and we can chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz, for being part of the show. Everything will be in the show notes. Don't forget to mention Wise Divine Women podcast. If you're interested in coaching with Liz, $500 off. I'm very excited if you are going to get into that because it's important to have focus and have correction and have someone as fearless as Liz be your coach. Thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you all. Enjoy the listen.